So would you say these Boston Celtics are overachievers or underachievers? They've been to the conference finals 3 of the past 4 seasons, but they've also not made it to the finals any of those years. They're one of just a handful of teams sending multiple players to this year's All-Star game, but they've also spent more than a third of the season outside the top half of the East playoff bracket. Ask the Celtics themselves, and they'll tell you they believe they're much better than their current record suggests. Although for a while against the Wizards last night, we were quite frankly getting evidence on both sides. At times, Boston looked extremely sharp. Check this Kemba 3 to give the Celtics an 11-point lead in the third quarter. Walker would finish this game with 21 points, looking a whole lot like his old before-the-knee problems self. And Daniel Tice also had a great game, 20 points, 9 rebounds. It's performances like that from the team's role players that Boston is going to need to go anywhere this season, and it was particularly timely last night with Jaylen Brown out with a knee injury. But for Boston to go anywhere this season, the Celtics will also need to clean up the careless stretches like the one that let the Wizards come storming back last night. In fact, Washington led by 8 with under 3 minutes to go, thanks to yet another blistering performance from Bradley Beal, who would finish with 46. Yet instead of folding, Boston stood its ground. Jayson Tatum, in particular, was just a monster. Check the turnaround fadeaway 3. Pretty good. Then some repeated old-fashioned head-down drives to the basket, and check what happens around the 15-second mark. Tatum crashes to the floor, which means the court gets some sweat on it, sweat that Beal then slips on a few seconds later, which lands him with his feet out of bounds. And how did Bradley feel about this?
Probably some of the goofiest shit I ever seen in my life. Slipped out of bounds. Gave Tatum 3 layups at the end of the game. I'm pissed off.
Yeah, he said 3 layups for Tatum, and here's the third. Fantastic reverse there. That put Boston up by 1. And while the Wizards then had the ball and nearly 5 on the clock, watch the Celtics sideline here. The coaching staff recognizes Washington's set here. It's the same one that helped the Wizards beat Denver recently, and they start yelling instructions, telling players Beal is going to curl to the corner and that no one should switch. The heads up allowed Boston to trap Beal in that corner. Brad couldn't get a shot off, and boom, Celtics win. Got a shot off, couldn't get a good shot off.
Hit it too.
Afterward, Brad Stevens praised Tatum's, quote, will to win, saying it's been a tough month for him, but that this team has kept its connectedness and its belief. The Boston Celtics see themselves as one of the NBA's better teams. And while the jury may be still out for the rest of us, last night was certainly another step toward at least making their case. So, Richard, where are you on that? Do you believe in this Boston Celtics team this year?
I do believe in them. Like, do I think that, they need to improve a ton if they're going to make a similar run that they made last year? I do. They have 2 young stars that are growing together, that are learning how to be leaders. And you saw Jayson Tatum took over after being up, being down, not having a great month, all the reasons to kind of, go a different direction, and he took over. And so just based off of that, you got to believe in him.
I believe, and Richard will tell you, the season doesn't start till after the All-Star break.
Right.
And if you think about it, their core of Marcus Smart, Kemba, Tatum, and Brown have only played 2 games together this year, so they still haven't got that chemistry and that timing down that they need, and they will get post-All-Star break. And they're still right in the thick of things. I think it's 17-17. There's 3 teams, Toronto and Miami are kind of all in the thick of things, and I see all of them, trending up after All-Star break. But I'm definitely believing in the Celtics and looking forward to their rise second half of the season.
Well, look, they're playing in the East, whereas we keep noting only a handful of teams, even over 500. Oh, boy, we'll get to that a little bit more later in the show. But look, I think that if you get what you get last night, if you get Kemba looking like Kemba Walker, if you get role players playing to their ability, if you get Jaylen Brown back, this is a team that could do something. The thing is, though, they are going to be hard capped this year. So I'm interested to see what they do at the trade deadline. Do they use that trade exception they got out of the Gordon Hayward deal? Do they wait to do it this summer so they give them more flexibility this summer? I can't tell yet whether Danny Ainge feels this team really can make a run. So how much is he going to invest in them? And then, of course, we're getting ready for Marcus Smart to come back, too.
I think one thing, too, is I think we're underestimating Marcus Smart's importance, and it doesn't always show up in the numbers. But Tatum's numbers and Brown's numbers offensively are down with Marcus Smart out, because he does kind of the Clay factor, where Clay would always take the top scoring guard and kind of help save Steph a little bit. Marcus Smart does that for both those wings. Both those guys play defensive, but that's Marcus's job. And I think his leadership and the little things that don't show up on the stat sheets are really overlooked with his absence right now.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Marcus Smart, and you see that. We've seen it with COVID. We've seen it with injuries. We've seen so much. So this year, it's tough to really judge almost any coach, right? Like Utah, who is rolling through the league, they've only had 3 different starting lineups. They've had no COVID and no injuries, and they're a very good team. So that's why. And so other teams that have dealt with it, even if they're a very good team, you could see a big drop.
You said coach. You mean the blowback on Brad Stevens right now in Boston because it's loud and windy at the moment. Marcus Smart, also a lot of playmaking for the Celtics, too, that they're missing there. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.